Have you ever looked back at your dating history or your relationship history and realized that while the names may have changed, the story stayed the exact same? Different man, different relationship, but it feels like the same disappointment. Maybe he wasn't ready. Maybe he was inconsistent. Maybe he love bombed you and said all the right things in the beginning and then slowly started to pull away or start breadcrumbing. And after enough experiences like that, it's natural to start asking yourself, what did I do? Why do I keep attracting the wrong kind of people? Well, in today's episode, I want to challenge something that might change how you see relationships because the issue might not be who you're attracting, the real issue might be who you're choosing. I want you to sit with that because we're going to dig in. Stay tuned. To the secret formula of femininity for women who want to live a more feminine, fun, and fabulous life. I'm Dr. Nicole Monteiro, your host on this weekly journey to unlocking your inner radiance, nurturing fulfilling relationships, and becoming the best version of yourself. Welcome back to another episode of The Secret Formula of Femininity. I am your host and guide on this journey to tapping into your feminine essence. And in this season, tapping into what it takes to attract, to choose, and to maintain a healthy relationship. As you know, I'm a psychologist and coach, and I've worked with women for years, not just around personal transformation and growth, but around relationship transformation and growth. And that's why really getting at the patterns that we keep repeating without even knowing it is so key. One of the most common things I hear from women is, where are all the good men? They say it in so many different ways. It may come out as, where are all of the emotionally mature people? Why is the dating pool so horrible? Why does it have pee in it, so to speak? And then there's the divides that start to come up between the women who say, forget it, I'm foregoing relationships. This is how I get my peace. And then the women who want to keep trying, but they don't have the tools. And then sometimes people call them pick-me's, pick-mishas. And what happens at the end of it is no one is getting to the point where they understand the patterns that make it hard for them to have the healthy relationships that they want. Now, I'm going to say something that a lot of people might not like, and that is the more we keep blaming everyone else, pointing the finger outside of ourselves for what we deem to be our relationship failures, the longer it's going to take for us to get to the core issue. Now, I'm not saying it's always your fault. It's never always one person's fault. It's a dynamic. We're in a culture where relationships have been degraded. We've gone through hookup culture. We've gone through rising rates of divorce, delayed marriage, even people saying now they don't want to have children. So there's so much in the culture that makes it hard to connect. But the part that I really want you to hone in on, the part that will empower you, is, what are your patterns? What are the things that you're not seeing about not just who you're attracting, but who you're choosing? And this is something that I see working with women over and over. It's seeing the impact of not having seen good examples around us, maybe not having healthy examples in our families that we could emulate, and then having our own internal issues like attachment issues, like having never learned how to communicate well in relationships, and so forth. And eventually that results in unhealthy patterns that we can't seem to get out of, even when we become aware of them. I want to tell you about a woman who was in one of my coaching programs. I'm just going to call her Tanya. She was very successful. That's the thing. So many women don't have a problem reaching success. They have the discipline, the drive, the ambition to be successful. Tanya was just that. She was a successful executive, amazing career where she progressed. She had mentors. She had a community of women and other people who were supportive in her career. Of course, there were challenges, but she was able, it was predictable. She put in the work and she got the results. And as a result, she was financially secure. And she even branded herself a strong woman. However, What she wanted to work with me on is this pattern of choosing emotionally unavailable men. And it reminded me of some conversations that I've had with other women where they say, I want a corporate thug. So they're talking about wanting to have this man that exudes masculinity, which helps to give them a sense of being protected, of being provided for, that they are going to be able to fall back and feel like they're safe. But at the same time, they want someone who's a little bit refined, but they also want some of that pure masculine energy. What happens though, and what I have often seen, is that the corporate thug is just a label for somebody who tends to be emotionally unavailable. So, what Tanya was seeking and chasing was this sense of safety and security. And her backstory was that she didn't have that growing up. She grew up around a lot of women. There was not the presence of healthy, consistent male figures that she got to see, a healthy relationship either with her mom or her aunts or so forth. So she didn't really see it. And she was filling in the blanks with what she felt was going to help her to feel safe. And it was that sort of that pure masculine energy that was a little refined. Now, what she didn't realize is that a lot of these men she was chasing that seemed like the corporate thug that had the energy or matched the energy that she thought she was bringing, they also had their own wounds. They also had unhealthy patterns that they had observed. And a lot of them actually had fathers that weren't present in their life. And so they weren't able to provide the actual emotional safety that she was seeking and that she thought was represented in how they presented themselves. And what she thought was happening at first is that she was just finding the wrong corporate thug, somebody who just wasn't honest, wasn't a good person. And then it started to build where she was like, oh my gosh, there are no good men. They're all like this. They're all unavailable. They're not any good. They just want to play around with women. And then she started to point the finger at herself. And she got into this cycle of self blame where it's like, I'm broken. What's wrong with me? I'm never going to have a healthy relationship. What we were able to break down for her or to help her to realize is that it wasn't so much that she was attracted to unhealthy men. She was actually attracted to some qualities that was her way of seeking a healthy connection and attachment. But what was really happening is she was attracted to a familiar emotional experience. So while she thought she was chasing a man who would fill in the gaps for what she didn't have, she was actually chasing the familiar feeling of not having someone truly be present, truly be consistent, and be there for her. And that was such a revelation for her because we were able to help her get out of that mindset that all men are bad, which is not a healthy place to be in. And we helped her to stop pointing the finger at her as if she was too wounded and she was just damaged goods, which was an unspoken thought that she was carrying around about herself. We were able to help her see that there was a pattern that she wasn't even aware of that she was attracted to. And when we were able to help her shift from feeling like the unavailable man is the exciting man to understanding that emotional availability is actually even more exciting. She saw some real changes. And not only did she see changes, she saw real transformation in how she felt about herself, how she showed up when she put herself out there, and how she showed up in her next relationship. So Tanya was like a lot of, and with me, I always take it back to childhood because it is so key, especially in terms of how we attach. Did we have a secure attachment where we felt like our needs were being met, all of our needs, including our emotional needs at the different stages of growing up? Or did it feel like something was missing, something that we couldn't even put words to? And usually, when it's the needs that we have that we can't put words to, those are the ones that we end up chasing. And so if we didn't have a consistent person there, someone could easily what we call love bomb us by texting a lot, sending I love yous, sending all of these gifts and beautiful language in the beginning. And then it feels like we have a hit of like a high. because it feels like something we didn't have, we're getting now. Then sometimes there's the person who just texts inconsistently or disappears after doing all of that in the beginning. And then we end up feeling like, oh my God, what's wrong with me? The same way that we may have felt as a child when that important person in our life, that key figure, wasn't there. We felt like, what's wrong with me? And that same feeling can be aroused or elicited when we're in adult relationships. And what do you think happens when we start asking, what's wrong with me? Well, we start wanting to fix ourselves. We start wanting to prove ourselves. So, to the person who's texting inconsistently, we're like, oh my gosh, what do I have to do? I have to spend time writing the perfect text. And then we start looking for advice on what to do if he's not writing you back. And we start making all of these efforts to prove that we're good enough when if that person wasn't available in the first place, there's nothing that you can do to make him be available. That's an individual decision that he has to make. Another type that I see a lot of women go for is the one who tries to connect so much emotionally in the beginning. He makes you feel seen and understood. Sometimes there's some trauma bonding where he's telling you about hardships he went through, and he seems like he's so interested in hearing your hardships. And it can feel like that is someone who's being emotionally available, but it's really just a way of not having boundaries, of sharing too much in the beginning, of not understanding the importance of pacing, taking it slow, and revealing things a little bit at a time, not all at once. And then on the other side of the coin is the man who kind of puts up a more strong facade. And so it could seem like he's in control. It seems like he's mature, but he doesn't show any vulnerability. And some of that could be fear from his own experiences. It could be a way of controlling how things play out between the two of you. It really doesn't matter because the key thing is when he's showing up in a way that's unbalanced as far as the image that he's putting out and how much he's showing of what's truly inside, you're still ending up with someone who's unavailable. And that's that familiar pattern. So I want you to think about it. Which one tends to get your attention more? Is it the one who does so much in the beginning, or is it the one who has more of a strong, tough exterior, but they're still not showing you who they are? And I would say the one who's doing so much and talking so much and sharing so much in the beginning, they're also not showing who they really are. This is a way to get in and get close with you that isn't really a healthy, balanced way of connecting with another person. So that falls into that pattern of not just attracting, but choosing the familiar, unavailable man. So, like I said, I want you to think about which one catches your attention more. And that is your pattern that you need to understand. I want you to think about a few things when you think about your patterns. Have you ever done any of these things? Have you ever ignored a red flag or several red flags? Have you ever stayed way too long? Now, you all know that I'm not someone who advocates for just cutting people off, and as soon as they do something you don't like, you just cut them off. But there is a thing of letting it go on too long, and that happens when you ignore red flags. So, have you ever done that? Or have you ever mistaken potential for reality? If you think about it, all three of these, ignoring red flags, staying too long, mistaking potential for what's really happening, all of these relate to an ideal fantasy that we have in our heads about a person versus who they are or who they are really showing us. And that ideal fantasy, that thing that we wish a person could be, is really based on that familiar need that we have. Now, let's look at green flags because not only do women often ignore red flags, they also ignore green flags. So let's talk about this consistent guy. This is the person who is reliable over time, whose actions match his words, who is genuinely kind and considerate and compassionate, and who is emotionally available. And this kind of man is the man that provides peace. He's not trying to be manipulative. He's not trying to pull the wool over your eyes or get one over on you or try in some twisted way to work through his emotional traumas by messing up things in your life. He is genuinely a good, available person. Not perfect, but genuine and available. But many women overlook this type of man. Why is that, you might say? Well, for one, I've heard this type of man seems boring. This type of man just seems too good to be true. This type of man doesn't have enough of an edge. This type of man doesn't give me that feeling of being protected like someone who has street smarts. There's all kinds of things that women will tell themselves to talk themselves out of an emotionally available man. And it made me think about the fact that many women say they want peace until it shows up looking just regular and ordinary. Not flashy, not with the latest this and that, but something that's regular, ordinary, and that can last. And again, it's not that this type of man is not attracted to you, and you may even be attracted to him, but you're not choosing him because you're mistaking chemistry that we talked about earlier for compatibility. You're thinking it always has to be sparks in order for it to be good. And that is one of the biggest misconceptions that I see. So, why do smart women get stuck? Smart women, like I said, Tanya was an executive, financially stable, had climbed up. She had garnered the support of mentors and other peers and community. So she was a smart cookie. But when it came to relationships, she was stuck. One of the things that was happening with her, and that happens with so many women, is overthinking, intellectualizing. Everything becomes a calculation and going over and over in your head. And it doesn't free you up to really go with your intuition, to really be in touch with your feelings, and to really be in your feminine energy where you can sit back, you can evaluate, but you can also be in a state where you can receive. You're not trying to overprove yourself. You're allowing a person to show you why you should choose them. That's a very feminine stance to take. Also, a lot of women, because they are coming from that place of a need that they're trying to fill or avoid or something that they didn't get in childhood, they end up trying to earn love. Or they confuse effort either on the part of the man or the effort that they're putting in with compatibility. I recently read a story about a woman, highly educated. She was a nurse and had done so many amazing things, was able to buy a house. She had two children and just create a healthy life for herself. And someone reached out to her one day on Facebook. He was actually in prison, but I guess he was able to be on social media, saw her profile, and reached out to her. And he apparently was a very smooth talker. He talked to her, he swept her off her feet just online, love bombing, saying how beautiful she was, all of the things that I just talked about in terms of all of that effort, it seems like in the beginning. Now let's think about it. He really had all the time in the world to be able to do this. He was in prison, but he really charmed her and they started talking frequently and she ended up visiting him. To make a long story short, she put a lot of effort. She put money into visiting him. She put money on his books. She felt loved and seen and appreciated, but she was putting in all of the effort. They got married while he was in jail. And then eventually, about 2 years after they got married, while he was in prison, he was released. She had everything set up for him when he got out, a place to live. They went on a vacation to celebrate their honeymoon. He had everything set up for him by her when he got out. However, if you step back and look at it, the effort was lopsided. She had put in all of the effort, the resources, the money, the time. He was just there putting in the words and the time he had to think of ways to manipulate her. In addition to that, he had been in jail for a violent crime. And it is clear by the outcome of this story that he was never truly rehabilitated. The story ends sadly because not too long after he got out, there began to be domestic abuse. They actually had a baby together in addition to the two children that she already had. But he ended up, and this is a trigger warning, killing her and killing himself. He had a temper. Apparently, he was violent. And all of the effort and the things that she had put into the relationship that made her feel like they were compatible and that there was chemistry, it meant nothing because he was not well enough. I don't know his full story, but clearly, despite seeming like he was interested and available in there, he was not. He was unwell, but he was also emotionally unavailable. So it's something that we have to look at, that we could be so high achieving and so intelligent and so strong on the one hand, but if we're not aware of what is driving, what needs we have, whether it's a self-esteem need, whether it's a need of someone that abandoned us, whether it's a need to not have to face being alone for a little while, whether it's a need to always be with someone, there's usually a need that is not met that's driving us to choose the people who are red flags and not good for us. So, now that I've given so many examples of the problem, you might be asking, how do I break this pattern? What do you do? How do I break this pattern? What do I do? I want you to ask yourself three core questions when you're first interacting with someone or as a relationship is progressing. Question one is, how does this person make me feel? And that's the part where you really have to fall back and sit in your feminine and trust your intuition and be in touch with your emotions. Not just the part of you that overthinks, but the part of you that feels. Question two is, how do I feel about myself when I'm around them? Okay. What do I have self doubt? Do I feel badly about myself? Am I doubting myself? Am I feeling like I have to go on overdrive, improve myself? Am I questioning things about my looks or how I am as a woman? Are they making me feel like I am not enough? And the third question is this relationship creating peace or confusion? When I'm with this person or as this relationship is unfolding, am I always unclear on what is happening? Am I always being given excuses as to why am I asking so many questions or why don't I just let it flow or what's the big deal? Or am I feeling at peace? Like I understand what this person wants out of this and how they feel. And that they seem to be in a space where they're honest, not only with me, but with themselves and about what they want. So a relationship is really going to make you feel one of two things, it's confusion or it's peace. So you need to understand, what is this relationship making you feel? Now, in next week's episode, we're going to be going a little bit deeper and talking about one of the biggest mistakes that women make in dating, and that is confusing chemistry with compatibility. Make sure you subscribe, hit that like button, hit the notifications bell so that you don't miss the next episode and the discussion around it. So I want you to answer this question. What relationship pattern are you aware of that you're ready to break? Now, if you're looking for more tools for tapping into your feminine energy so that you can have that connection to what you need, what you feel, and answering some of those key questions I just asked, you can sign up for my 3-day Feminine Energy Challenge. This is where you understand the basics of feminine energy, how to tap into it, and what it means for your relationships and attracting and choosing healthy love. You can find out more about it at the link in the show notes. Until next time, stay open, stay soft, and stay feminine. I'm Dr. Nicole.